and she's a scientific advisor for NobleBlocks, which is a decentralized platform for scientific publishing. They're partnering with us and sponsoring the event, so we're very happy and grateful for that. Aside from that, Shellie has published more than 45 papers and is like a true scientist and also an entrepreneur and innovator. And thank you, Shellie, for being with us today.
All right. Good morning, good afternoon. Well, I'm here on behalf of NobleBlocks, which is a new publication platform. We're quite young, but we're moving fast. And I would like to open this talk with a little bit about myself. So when I was younger, I worked at a coffee house, and I used to take the tip money that I got, and I'd walk over to, the corner store, and I would buy, one of these. And I would go like every month and pick up the new issue, and I was so determined that one day that I would be able to write and publish in a journal like Nature or Science, because I thought they were absolutely fascinating. They were so prestigious, and to be able to write like that and communicate like that, wow, that really meant something. What I didn't know at the time was how much time and training it would take to even develop the quality that a journal like this would require, nor did I understand the sacrifices that I would have to make in order to publish in a journal like this. And even though I couldn't read all of it, like the first few sentences of each subsection, like that's as far as I could get. Like that's all I knew. It was so naive. But I still spent, 10 euro, I think at the time it was just a few dollars back in the day. That's what it cost me to get access to this information. We know today that access to information has a price. Access to prestige has a price. And scientific progress generally has a price. You may pay $10 to buy this article or buy this access to this information, but the authors that are in this publication, if you open the reference list, you look at the table of contents, and there are loads of articles in there. These authors are spending 10 to 12,000 USD just to appear here. So this is not a $10 copy. This piece here is worth 200,000. That's what it costs. So academic publishing has a culture. If you can publish in a journal like this early in your career, it will set you on a trajectory for success. And we strive as scientists to get into these prestigious journals because it really matters for our career. And the reason why we strive for the prestige is because there is an implicit association that means your research is better. And if you have better research by this association, then it's much easier to get funding. And the more funding that you get, the more research you can produce, and the likelihood of getting again in another high-ranking journal increases dramatically. It is the simple phenomenon of more gets more, otherwise known as the Matthew effect. This is a culture that continues to circulate. And underneath that culture, there is a rising monopoly. So there are three major issues that are happening alongside this culture, running in parallel, if you will. So the first one is that the market is monopolized. There are about 10 major publishing houses that control the market. So it's really not reached a point of equilibrium. So if you're into economics, usually you get to a point of supply and demand where that supply brings you the value for what you're purchasing. we haven't got there yet. Below that, we have some new statistics that the scientific output is skyrocketing. We have never faced this before. This is completely new. In addition to that, the more scientific output that's out there, the harder it is to find the gems, the real golden nuggets that can make a difference in your lives, your company, your business. They get buried. And this is a growing problem and concern. And I think you'll hear other people speak today about a lot of bias, like how do you get into a prestigious article or journal? You have to, you go under a peer review, you get reviewed by other scientists and they validate your work. They help you increase the integrity by helping you highlight some of the weaknesses so that the reader can, in the long run, make their own judgments. For those of you that don't know, academic publishing is a really big business. The revenue rivals household names like Netflix in the international music industry. But I think what's even more interesting is the profit margin. The profit margin is, next to some of the high-tech companies, so Google and Apple. So it's a very, very nice profit margin. It's higher than oil and gas. So how do they do it? How do they get that profit margin? Well, it's a pretty simple model. So historically, journals and publishing houses have a subscription-based model. And that subscription-based model essentially asks you to pay to gain access. So you buy the article, you buy the journal, and you get access. That's what you do. But the researchers, we pay not to get access to one, we pay to get access to the entire historical part of those articles. Oh, there it is. In 2008, there was only a couple journals that had shifted to what is now considered more modern, which is the Gold Open Access. And Gold Open Access is different from the subscription-based model where the universities pay to get access to that information so they can build on it. There was a push for open science, and with that came open access. And the idea is that you shouldn't have to buy a copy. You should just be able to gather information as you need it. And I think we can all get behind that notion. It sounds super positive, and it should increase the rate at which we can drive science forward. But what a lot of people don't understand is that that model also comes at a really, really high price tag. So the universities and colleges, and actually, countries, they're paying up front so that you can have access for free. So they're putting the cost ahead so that we can go in and get access to that information. Case in point. So I've traveled here today from Denmark. I'm Canadian originally, in case anyone is curious. So in Denmark, we have a library called the Black Diamond. It's a royal library, and it collectively negotiates with these large publishing houses on behalf of the state. The University of Copenhagen, which is the largest university, spends 2.8 per year, and this was considered a good deal. So in the last 4 years, they spent 2.8 million. For access for all the universities in Denmark, there's only a handful, like five major universities, 10.7, and that's just to get access to Elsevier, just one of the major publishing houses. The Danish state pays 44 million in total to get access to all the information available within the scientific community. That's every year. And then on top of that, we pay a lot to get into these articles or these journals. So that's an undisclosed amount. So not only do we pay to get access, we pay to put our research in there. There was a recent study put out this year. Does it pay to pay? And it was a simple question that said, is it worth us as scientists to pay to have our work open access? And the result of that was, yes, there is a marginal benefit. Our research is found, it's more discoverable. We get cited, other people find us. Pre-post-COVID, we saw a price hike, 30-40% for open access. That was in such a short span. And although these numbers don't look super, super high, you can see that the revenue from open access publishing is climbing, and it will continue to do so. So 2008, around 1,000 journals. Now, 2022, 2024, we're sitting between 7,000 and 8,000 journals that are, it's not an option. This is the model you buy in. About 10 years ago, so like a whole decade, some of us were just coming out of university, graduating, getting married. You know, picture you 10 years ago. So 10 years ago, a famous mathematician who won what is equivalent to the Nobel Prize brought this forward, and The Economist covered a really nice, sweet piece. And they got a quote. And the quote was, well, we charge average industry prices, and our profit margins stem from efficiency. Okay, so this statement is not untrue. It's not untrue. In fact, what we should really look at is average industry price, and the second phrase we should look at is efficient operations. So average industry price. If you have 70% of the market, then you control the industry price. You set the price tag. So again, that statement is not untrue. The second statement, efficient operations. Well, let's dive into that, shall we? The question we should be asking now is, who is doing the heavy lifting? A researcher's life is very akin to a startup. We go out, we find funding, amounts that are equivalent to pre-seed, seed, and even a Series 1. We use that funding to perform research, we write up our results, and then we submit it for publication. And then those publishing houses ask the scientific community to review our work. And they do it for free because we are good-willed by nature. We do it for free. And this is the culture. If you're fortunate and you go through the round of peer review, so this process is called peer review, then you will be, you get a positive response and you get accepted for publication. That's when you pay. So now you also pay to get put into the journals. You pay to get into these articles, into these journals. Now this brings us to a very interesting point in time, because for decades we have been operating with this interesting circle, this more gets more circle. We have been operating with supporting the efficiency for large publishing houses, but we have now reached a point in time where the number of qualified and trained individuals that can actually perform a peer review, that pool is shrinking. Scientific output is skyrocketing. So that leaves two options, right? The peer review gets weak because you can't draw on enough qualified individuals to actually perform it anymore, or it implodes. I mean, that's the trajectory. So if we just look at the time to receive a peer review, it can range from a month and a half to a year, depending on the journal. So it takes time for this to happen. And it's not to say that a short peer review time is good and a long peer review time is bad. In fact, it really depends. What you really want is to ensure that you have the right person looking and reviewing the article. And that does take time because you're looking for experts, you're looking for industry experts, you're looking for people that have the skills to do so. And those people, they're busy searching for funding, right? Yeah. Okay, so if you ask an average scientist, there was a survey that just came out, I think it was 23 or 24, and the time, like an average scientist will do about six reviews per year. And they will review 6 articles and then they may re-review at least 3 of those. Some do a lot more and some do less, but that's the average. And if you look at the cost for peer review, so if you just do the simple mathematics, so like how many articles are being published every year, how much time it takes to make a single peer review, it's about $2 billion USD worth of hours. And if you also include all the articles that didn't get published, so the ones that got rejected, and if you expand that number just slightly to include other types of academic publications, it goes up to 6. That's 6 billion every year that is being funneled in the name of operational efficiency. There are other signs too. Last year, 42 editors from 2 very well-established journals left. They left because there was a 100% price hike increase in the article processing charge. So the charge they wanted to pass on to the authors, to the scientists to get published. This was NeuroImage and NeuroImage Report. There is a site called Retraction Watch, and they've been monitoring mass walkouts like this. In 2015 and 2016, there was only 1. Fast forward to 23, that number went up really high. And mid-24, like where we are right now, there's already 6 new cases. So we see signs of a shrinking pool. We see signs of, well, very cushy profit margins, and we see signs of editors saying that this isn't okay. We don't agree. So that brings me to why I'm here today. So NobleBlocks has emerged on a landscape, Web3 landscape, and it makes sense that we emerged here because there's a lot of energy and there's a lot of life and there's a lot of things that we can bring forward and we can tackle what is being largely monopolized and we can give back to the scientific community. We need to re-energize and reward those that are actually pulling the weight. So NobleBlocks is launching a publication platform to tackle one of many issues. So the first one is instead of relying on external people for your efficiency, we're building it in. So built-in efficiency to streamline the process, to help find the reviewers and editor, the whole works. We also recognize that we are in a time of our development as a society and as a people that community is so very important. So we're also building in ways that you can connect with people that are within your interest, but also making it super easy for you to connect with people and work with people that you wouldn't otherwise normally get a chance to meet. So we're integrating all of these community features to support the individual scientists, to support the research group. And of course, we're leveraging Web3. So we are tokenizing our reward system. So essentially, we are able to offer scientists, their teams, their departments, their universities, a way to get fair recognitions for their contributions. I think $6 billion a year is good motivation to say, hey, can't Can't we funnel some of that? Could you imagine if we had 6 billion that could be diverted to some of the research projects that many of us are interested in launching? How much more scientific progress we could actually make? That's a lot. And that's just the time. We're not talking about the article processing charges. That's on top. So NobleBlocks is also aiming to reduce the barriers to publish your work. You shouldn't have to think about how much it costs to get your research noticed, to make it discoverable. This should be something that we as a society, we have the tech. There's no reason why it can't happen. So you can check us out. We're still young. We've been developing for 6 months. As I said, we're moving fast. And I'm here, and Paolo is here. She's over there in the corner. If you have any questions, you're welcome to chat us up. Give us a follow. Yeah, give us a follow. My name is Shellie. I hope you enjoyed the talk.
Questions for Shellie?
Hey, great talk. It's really great to hear the powerful way you describe the industry. From someone who's in the industry, can you give me your insight as to like how we got here? How did some of the smartest people in our society for however many decades put up with this really, really obviously extractive system?
Yeah, so historically, like the critical review of research was done via different university publishing houses, and that was basically an in-house process. Or actually started as societies, like a society, like we could be a society right now, and we would have our work reviewed by the society. As scientific output began to increase, we went from having a society to assigning like a single editor. And that single editor was basically say whether or not your work could be published. And that's how it started. And then at some point, the universities let go of the internal review process and then they externalized it. So why they did that, I think maybe they did it because they thought that that was the best thing. It just turned out to be super profitable. And even when things went digital, like there was a time when new journals came to market and they were only digital. They were not print. And people talked about that a digital journal wasn't credible. Like that's ludicrous, right? You think about it now, it doesn't make any sense. Why would a journal that's having a print version be much more credible? So I think it just snowballed. And because of the beginning about how it's so important for people to get that recognition so that they can get funding, that just kept the whole circle intact. So we are constantly motivated to publish in journals that have high rankings. And the journals that have high rankings typically have the highest article processing charges. And that's just the system that we're in. So it will take a lot to break it. And I'm actually super excited about the DAOs that are coming out that facilitate funding, because I think that is a critical step to get us out of that vicious cycle. Absolutely.
Thank you. Very fascinating. I could add on your question and your trouble, like the idea that you started. You spoke about Elsevier and others, and they are well established, and we know the drill. I come also from academia, and when you put that in other perspective, not living in Denmark, but living in Serbia, and needed to publish an article, and you don't have a close chance, like it's like a comet, to put something viable on Elsevier, then you get into deeper rabbit hole than it is. But it's great to have an idea like this. My question is, did you organize, I'm not talking about now blockchain on Web3, I'm just talking about physics of your idea. Due to the need for not editors, researchers to have their numbers. Like, okay, if they possibly publish something, okay, they have like obligation if they are a university professor to have points, like C points for scientific paper. So did you consider, well, you probably considered all of that, but did you organize NobleBlocks as a total repository, or you have some special editions, like periodic ones that can be visible? Because they need that in order to function. If they don't have that, it's okay to publish something anywhere, but it's meaningless for them, for their job, because they have like periods of 5 years or 3 years to get re-elected on their post as a professor, and also much stricter rules are, for example, Eton requires you also to have hands-on experience in the industry. So if you don't have anything in 6 months' time, ready, up and running, you lose your post. I have another question, but just...
Yeah, so if I understand the question correctly, it's as an academic, you have some identifiers that would validate that this is a scientific publication. And yes, we will be indexed. All the research that is published will be discoverable through major database searches. So that, of course, will be there. I would like to respond by giving you a case example of JMAR. So JMAR was launched in 2000, the late, 2010, I think, roughly around that time. And I was doing my PhD work, and I really, really wanted to publish in JMAR. But it was new. But I felt as a junior mid-level scientist that was the future. And I pushed it on my supervisors, and I said, we need to be in here. JMAR now has one of the highest impact factor. It's like super high impact factor. It climbed quite fast, faster than most traditional journals, because they did something different. What they did is they introduced a karma system, which was basically very similar in some respects to the tokenization that we're offering here as an incentive. And that karma system rewarded reviewers for their time and effort. So they stepped out. They still work in traditional publication. They still have everything that you're asking for now, and they are now something that you would be happy to publish in JMAR and any one of its sister or brother journals. Yeah. So we will have the details that are required to put on a CV. But everything does take time, and we're working really hard to change things. So we're stepping out, and we hope that other people will join us.
Just on the side of skyrocketing of the publications, you mentioned OECD, like countries, but did you, well, you probably did the global picture of publications and everything, like in the past, let's say, period, not 10, let's say 3 years, the recent ones. I'm talking about the money invested in the research. Then you can see the total disbalance. For example, US is investing around something less than 200 billion in the science, much more in the army, like around 1 trillion. But Chinese are now close to 1 trillion in investment. And also the publications now, I saw like 20 years ago, their publications, especially in the ICT area or something applied electronics and physics, it was okay, like some Meteor or something like that. Now, they're top of their class. They surpassed the Western publications. We also look up, when I cite something, I start with Elsevier, then I go down. Okay, there is like a couple of helping hands, not regular ones, but we can get access to a lot of publications to do. What's your perspective on that? How things will roll out in the future period? Since Europe is not also investing that much, they are saying that they are investing that much, But for example, the countries like they're like on approach to EU membership, like Serbia and others, a lot of obstacles, a lot of paper pushing, like you give up like a zillion times in order to do anything. Like, what's your perspective on that?
Okay, if I understand the question correctly, what we're seeing is a rise in public and scientific output from other parts of the world that is climbing faster than, yeah. I think, you know, this is competition. This is competition at its best. It, you know, if anything, it will push us to be more creative, push us to pick up our speed. And I think, you know, things like NobleBlocks, you know, where we can reduce the barriers to publication, reduce the cost of publication, that will allow researchers, no matter where you're from, to have equal access to publish and have, you know, and the DAOs that are coming out to support funding, I mean, they're providing ways for researchers to get more funding. I think that is the whole reason why DeSci exists. It's to break down traditional barriers that would hold people back. We can lobby, you know, for more funding no matter where you're from, and I think that's maybe what we should do collectively. Like, you could gather some of your colleagues and lobby more. I think that's, you know, that's another fight. What we're doing is we're just trying to make things a lot easier for people that do have the fight in them and that they wanna get their research out there. Yeah. I hope that answers your question. Keep going, right? Keep fighting. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Shellie, for the great presentation.